What went wrong for the Longhorns offense against Ohio State? A lot. We'll dive in on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Come in. You were locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin local, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember to leave a comment. That's one of the fastest ways to help us grow right here on Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We will dissect Arch Manning's performance in segment 2, and we'll talk about some of the positives from Saturday in segment 3. But first, we need to talk about this Texas offense. There was a lot that went wrong in Columbus. The numbers back it up. The eye test backs it up. I mean, the scoreboard kind of tells the whole story, right? 7 points. You're not going to win a lot of football games when you only score 7. It was ugly. It was downright ugly for Texas. And there were plenty of things that didn't go well on that side of the football. And there's a lot that needs to get cleaned up. But there is one thing that concerns me more than anything else coming out of that loss at the Shoe. Again, a lot that needs to be cleaned up. There's no doubt. I'm pretty confident that most of it can and will be fixed. The one thing that really worries me, the red zone. Why, you ask? Well, because it was a problem in 2023, and it was a problem again in 2024, and it's still a problem in 2025, at least at the start of the 2025 season. What do they say? Once is by chance, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. We're into year 3 of this. It's not chance or coincidence anymore. This is a pattern, and it's a continuation of a very bad one for Steve Sarkisian and Texas football. The Longhorns had 2 trips inside the red zone on Saturday. They walked away with 0 points. That's right, a goose egg. Not only did they not get in the end zone, they didn't score at all on their 2 trips inside the Buckeye 20. And for the second time in as many games against Ohio State, Texas had a chance to tie the game in the second half. They get all the way down to the Buckeye 1-yard line, and they couldn't punch it in. Obviously, at the Cotton Bowl in January, it was a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line in the final minutes of regulation. This one was a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, but a similar spot, Texas 1 yard away from tying the game in a big spot against a great team, and they just couldn't get the job done. And it's unacceptable. Look, again, the whole offense was bad. It took Texas way too long to get inside the 20 anyways. They didn't even make it into the red area until the second half, but when they finally got there, they completely peed down their leg twice. They have no identity down there. There's nothing that Texas can lean on inside the 20s. And the crazy thing to me is they had 232 days to figure this out. 232 days between the Cotton Bowl and the game on Saturday. What did they come up with all of that time off? That. I mean, it looks like they added a quarterback power, and they tried to add a QB sneak, and they hoped that like those 2 things were going to be good enough to fix the last 2 years worth of red zone struggles. Not so fast, my friend, to quote the now retired legendary Lee Corso. It's more of the same. And of course, the last 2 Texas seasons ended in red zone failure. And it just feels like every big game that Texas has lost in the last few years has included at least one moment where they couldn't get the job done in the red area, and maybe more specifically at the goal line. The Oklahoma game in 2023, 1st and goal from the 1, you can't punch it in. Obviously, the semifinal game at the Sugar Bowl against Washington, you get to the red zone with a chance to win the game and get to a national title. You come up short. The SEC title game against Georgia last year, the college football playoff last year, and now this. Texas hasn't lost a lot of football games in the last few seasons, Every time they lose, you can almost point directly to a moment or a couple of moments in these losses where they just can't get the job done in the red zone. I'll dive into the play calls in a second. We'll break down exactly what was called and exactly what went wrong for Texas. But just to put into context that this isn't much to do about nothing. In 2023, Texas was 89th in the country in red zone offense, scoring at about 80%. Only a 50% touchdown percentage. The 80% was touchdowns and field goals combined. They only scored touchdowns on 50% of their red zone trips. In 2024, the overall red zone offense got worse. The Longhorns were 111th in the nation in red zone offense, scoring points on just over 77% of their trips. They did improve their touchdown percentage, going up to 64, but still not good enough. And again, the overall numbers actually got worse. And you look at the 3 losses that Texas had in 2024, Texas was 37.5% in terms of touchdown percentage in those 2 Georgia games, and of course the Ohio State game as well. And then here in 2025, Texas tied for dead last in the country with a 0% red zone success rate. Touchdown percentage, scoring percentage, it doesn't matter. You're over 2. That is another giant goose egg right there. Texas's red zone stats have gotten worse in every year that Steve Sarkisian has been the coach. Believe it or not, their best year was in 2021, year 1, when Texas was 5-7. Like, they were one of the best red area teams in the sport. That and blocking punts, like the only 2 things they were good at that year. Went down a little bit in 2022, but again, just gave you the numbers for 23 and 24, and here we are in 2025, and it's still not figured out. They had a whole offseason to get it corrected. Sark was asked about it 100 different times, including last Monday in his game week presser, and here we go again. Same crap, different year. I'll be politically correct. All right, I promised a breakdown of the red zone opportunities. So here we go, a quick play-by-play breakdown of the 2 red zone opportunities, and then we'll do a little screen sharing here to further dive into what's happening. So the first red zone trip for Texas, the first possession of the second half, Texas gets down to the 9-yard line. They've got a 1st and goal from the 9. The first down play call, quarterback design run, works pretty well. 5-yard pickup for Arch Manning, gets down to the 4. 2nd and goal. You know what? I'm going to screen share this right now. I'm going to make sure I've got the right play pulled up here. Okay, so 2nd and goal. Here we go. This is the situation. Texas has the ball at the 4. It's an empty set. Now you see Trey Wisner in motion a little bit. He's going to run to the backfield. Looks like he's going to stop next to Arch Manning, but instead he just ends up running to the other side of the field. So this is what you've got, an empty set, Arch Manning in the shotgun. To me, this just screams QB draw. The way Arch Manning had been throwing the football, if I'm Ohio State, I'm not thinking they're going to let Arch Manning throw it in this area. And with 0 threat of a running back, why don't you have a running back there? Just the threat of a zone read, the threat of a handoff, the threat of anything. To me, this was like such an obvious quarterback power from this look. Obviously, Texas did it on the play before, so Ohio State was already looking for it. They snuff it out. It's a minimal gain, maybe a yard on this play right there. The 3rd down play call is a shotgun run to C.J. Baxter. That gets 2 yards from the 3 down to the 1. I don't love shotgun handoffs down there. I prefer to go under center so my running back in the backfield can get, a head of steam and a little bit of a running start, so he's running downhill when he gets the ball versus just standing at a standstill. And obviously the 4th down, the hurry up, Texas snaps the ball with like 25 seconds on the play clock. They do the quarterback sneak. Awful. Steve Sarkisian in the postgame said Texas practiced it a lot, said he liked it, but he also said that, they didn't get the big guys out there. They didn't want to sub because they didn't want to let Ohio State bring in its jumbo players on defense, so they ran it out of a different formation to try to catch Ohio State off guard. Obviously, it didn't work. I'm a fan of the QB sneak. It's the most successful short yardage play in football. It can definitely work when executed correctly. That one obviously wasn't. Texas didn't look polished at all. They looked hurried. They looked rushed. It's kind of the theme of the day for Arch Manning in this Texas offense. Here's the look that they showed. And again, it can work, but it didn't look like something that Texas had practiced all offseason. They ran one earlier in the game on the 4th down on the first possession of the first quarter. And it was like 4th down and short from their own 34. They needed about a quarter of a yard. They barely got it. And I didn't leave that play thinking, oh, that's great. We got to run that again. I'm like, yeesh, I don't know if I want to see another quarterback sneak today, because that one barely got there. And yeah, they run it again. Obviously, they don't get there. They get stuffed at the goal line. That was sequence number one. Sequence number two, this is a 14-0 game at this point. Early in the fourth quarter, Texas has a 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. This was not a goal to go. This was a 1st and 10, but obviously in the red zone, so it fits the conversation here. First down play call, another quarterback run, picks up 4. Second down, shotgun run off tackle to Trey Wisner. It gets you 3. So it's 3rd and 3, and then ultimately 4th and 3. This, I'm going to criticize Sark for the first sequence of plays, right? The goal to go situation that we just talked about. Steve Sarkisian called perfect plays on 3rd and 4th down here. This is where execution matters, and this is where Arch Manning has to be better. Perfect play call on 3rd and 3. Here's the screen share right here. Oh, hit the wrong button. There we go. There's the screen share right there. Arch is under center, drops back to pass. He has a very clean pocket, at least for a while. And look, you got crossing routes over the middle of the field. Obviously, if you're in podcast form, you can't see this, but I think you remember the play. I'll try to explain it the best that I can. You got 2 crossers with Spencer Shannon and Ryan Wingo. This is right about the moment where Arch is about to throw the football. Both of those guys are wide open. Like, I understand leaning Wingo because he's Wingo and Spencer Shannon's your number 2 tight end. So throwing to Wingo is not a problem there, but the ball is at his feet. I mean, Arch throws a fastball right at the feet of Ryan Wingo. Like, if that ball is on the money, that's a first down easily. Instead, it's at his feet, so it's incomplete. If you throw it to Spencer Shannon, that's potentially a touchdown. And also at the very bottom of the screen, under the Ohio State logo on the scoreboard, you see Trey Wisner there. He's also open in the flat. So it was a great play call. There were 3 open receivers on this play. I think Arch made a fine decision going to Wingo. The ball's actually in the air. I beg your pardon. And if the ball's on the money, it's a first down. Drive stays alive. Maybe Wingo breaks a tackle and scores. Who knows? But the throw just wasn't there. So Arch Manning wasn't good. And then you get to the 4th down play call. This was another perfect play call by Sark. And a lot of the other guys on the offense executed this right. Arch Manning had the wrong read here. You see, Ryan Wingo is running kind of a slant. There was a rub route with DeAndre Moore. Wingo's running a slant. He's got about a step and a half on Jermaine Matthews, the Ohio State corner. If Arch throws it there to Wingo over the middle, that's a catch. That's a first down. Maybe Wingo takes a shot, but I trust him to hold on to the football. Maybe he breaks that tackle. Maybe he scores. Who knows? That should have been the play. Steve Sarkisian said after the game, the first read was supposed to be to Ryan Wingo. But Arch locked in on Parker Livingston. He saw a one-on-one. He took the corner out, which was a much lower percentage throw. I know Livingston was great, but that's your number 3 receiver, basically in his first game, going up against Davison Igbinosun, who's Ohio State's number 1 corner. That's a low percentage matchup. That's a low percentage throw. Obviously, it didn't work. Incomplete pass, turnover on downs. I don't want to say ball game over, but that was, needless to say, a massive moment for Texas. So, again, all the play calling wasn't bad. This is not to absolve Sark of any of the blame for what happened in the red zone. He's got to be better down there. And ultimately, it's his responsibility to figure out how to get this issue fixed. But even the times where he did call good plays, the execution wasn't there. Texas outgained Ohio State by 133. They outrushed them 166-77. They allowed 1 sack and 1 TFL in the entire game. You should win games. You should win every game when you do those things. But situational football, Ohio State made the big plays when they needed to, just like they did in January, and Texas didn't. Red zone offense continues to be a problem. You've got to get it fixed. All right, went a little long in this segment. We'll dive into Arch Manning's day. Some of it has to do with the red zone, some of it a few other things. But obviously, comment below. What's your biggest takeaways? Maybe your biggest concern with the Texas offense after one game. You just heard mine right there. All right, more on Arch Manning when we return. This is Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, y'all see the hat I'm rocking today. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? For me, I think it'd be this one right here, the Game. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price as they did back then. When you use the code Locked On, you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. That's right. Just head over to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's classic bar or the retro circle design that I'm rocking today, and use the promo code Locked On for an exclusive discount. $16.99 for an awesome hat to rep your favorite team. No better deal than that at thegamecaps.com, because legends wear the game. And also a shout out to our friends at Game Time. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. The long lines, the hidden fees, the prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Amazing deals for every college football game all across the country. Faster, cheaper, less stressful than any other way you've bought tickets in the past. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Locked On College, that's the promo code on the Game Time app. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. It is Game Time. I don't think swap is a word there. I'm just combining a couple of things, but shout out to Game Time. Shout out to all of you. Welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. So we talked about the red zone offense. Now we'll dive in a little bit more into Arch Manning's performance from Saturday. And we'll talk about this a couple of different times this week. Look, it was a rough, I don't know if you want to call it a debut. We'll call it a 2025 debut for Arch Manning. Obviously, he started a couple of games last year, played in a number of others. The 2025 debut for Arch was not good. And the first half was abysmal. The stat line kind of tells the story. Arch Manning was 5 for 10 for 26 yards passing in the first half. 5 carries, 13 yards rushing. Honestly, it was a joke that we saw on Twitter and social media during the game. Arch Manning might have appeared in more commercials than he had completions through the first 30 minutes of this game. At halftime, only one wide receiver had a catch. That was Ryan Wingo, who had one. Jack Injuries had a catch. C.J. Baxter had the other 3 receptions. So the wide receivers and tight ends combined for 2 total catches in the first half. Now, Arch picked it up a little bit. The whole Texas offense picked it up a little bit in the second half. But even then, just too many misses. Arch Manning looked rushed, and he just kind of looked in over his head. I mean, the first pass of the game, perfect play call from Steve Sarkisian. DeAndre Moore is wide open, about 20 yards down the field. Should have been an easy pitch and catch. And a big statement made on play number 1. What does Arch Manning do? He undershoots him by 5 yards. Like, the throw was so bad. I thought I got tipped. I watched the replay. I'm like, someone had to have tipped that, right? Like, there's no way Arch could have short-armed this bad. No, he did. And that was kind of a microcosm of what was to come. Talked about the Ryan Wingo on that third down in the red zone. Like, that crossing routes, easy throws that Arch Manning made last year. I know everyone's like, oh, we don't know anything about him. So all the hype and this, that, and the other. We saw enough from Arch Manning last year to know that he is capable of making those throws. And he didn't have it on Saturday. Don't close the book on him. He was under an insane amount of pressure. All of the talk, all off season long, that's out of his control. It's not like Arch Manning was trying to draw the spotlight to him. It's not like he was going out there every day saying, I'm the best quarterback in the country. I'm the best quarterback since Tim Tebow and all of college football. Like, he wasn't doing that. So it's unfair what he had to deal with the pressure and the hype and the expectations and the odds and this, that, and the other. Don't close the book on him. He's better than that. He's going to get better than that. But it was bad on Saturday. It was bad. He threw 30 passes. 11 of those 30 were characterized as off target. It's a 37% off target percentage. It's the lowest by a Texas quarterback in a decade. Think about how many bad QB performances and how many bad QBs we've seen around here the last 10 years. Like, that predates the Sam Ehlinger days. Some bad quarterback play at Texas and some bad seasons. Arch Manning's off-target performance against Ohio State was worse than any individual game that anybody else has had. The interception to Wingo, the ball was there. If Arch throws a good corner route, that's a big play for Texas. Instead, he's a little late to the read, and the ball just floated in the air, and it was underthrown by a good amount, allows Ohio State to intercept it. The footwork, the decision-making wasn't good. Mechanics were off. Just looked rushed. Again, looked uncomfortable, looked nervous, and some basic throws. Like Arch actually made some good throws, but he said it after the game. I thought we beat ourselves a lot. That starts with me. I've got to play better for us to win. 100% of this loss doesn't fall on Arch Manning, but he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. He has to be better for Texas to be better. Now, there was some good from the performance on Saturday. I thought his legs, nice weapon, 9 carries for 39 yards. The first down run that he had on that 2nd and 13, stepped up past a linebacker blitz, maneuvered outside the pocket, made a couple of guys miss, tiptoed down the sideline. That was good. Both of the completions to Parker Livingston, the touchdown throw was great. The sideline throw that he had early in the fourth quarter, dodged a rusher, stepped up, threw a dart. The wheel route to Jack Endries on the final offensive possession of the game. Hell of a catch by Endries, too, as he kind of got sandwiched between a couple of Buckeyes. There were some good, but too much bad and too much easy stuff that Arch missed. And that's weird. That's weird. He's better than that. He will be better than that. But unfortunately, that's the first thing that a lot of people saw. Everybody was watching that game on Saturday. Not everybody was watching Texas, Mississippi State or Texas ULM last year. For a lot of folks, this was like the first real Arch Manning game they got to see. And he wasn't good. He wasn't good enough. Again, not all on him. Didn't get enough help from his coaching staff, especially the head coach / offensive play caller. But tough 2025 debut for Arch Manning. We'll compare his performance to some other Texas quarterbacks' debuts in the past. And this will give you some more confidence that everything's going to be all right. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. I've already started doing some research there. But, Saturday, just not good enough all around for the Longhorn offense, but QB1 left a lot to be desired with his performance. All right, that's enough bad for today. It's a 3-day weekend. Come on, let's have some good. Some Longhorns were really good on Saturday, and they deserve some mention. So we'll hand out a few game balls from Saturday's loss coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Oh, but first, a word for our friends at Rougiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Ready. Rougiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours to kick in, Rougiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves right under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in just 15 minutes. By the way, the effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online. You get connected to a board-certified doctor, and you get treatment shipped discreetly right to your door. So head over to Rougiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Got a new computer, new setup. Hopefully it looks good. Hopefully it sounds good. Would love some feedback. Obviously, would love your feedback about the game, your biggest thoughts, observations, and takeaways from Texas's Week 1 loss to Ohio State. But any feedback, what needs to change, what looks good, always love hearing from y'all. All right, real quick, final segment. Again, a lot of bad, but a lot of good from Texas on Saturday. Some standout individual performances. We talked about it in the post-game video. Obviously, the Texas defense was fantastic. If you want to give that whole unit a game ball, I'm not going to argue against it. They did more than enough for the Longhorns to get a win. But the 5 best individual players for me, for Texas in Week 1. Number 1, the punter, Jack Bomeister. He was the best player on the field. It wasn't Jeremiah Smith. It wasn't Arch Manning. It wasn't anybody else. It was Jack Bomeister. 4 punts, averaged 46.3 yards per punt. He pinned 3 of those punts inside the 10-yard line, 2 of them inside the 5-yard line. Ohio State put Jeremiah Smith back there once or twice, like, hey, let's find a way to get him going. Maybe we can get him involved in the return game. The hang time was so good that Smith didn't get a chance. Jack Bomeister is a weapon, man. Texas did not have a great punting unit last year. They lost the battle of field position in the special teams phase. Jack Bomeister's a stud. you don't want your punter being your best player. Like, that's Michael Dixon era Texas football. We all love him, but he can't be your best guy out there. But what a weapon, what a find in the portal for Texas. Tip of the cap to Jack Bomeister on his day. Also, talk about debuts. What a first game for Grayson Littleton, the true freshman. Are you kidding me? Ohio State tested him a few times. They went his way on back-to-back plays. The first one against Jeremiah Smith, or Jelani McDonald fell down. So it turned into a one-on-one with Littleton there. Littleton held up, made a great play on the ball at the last second. The very next play, I think it's like Ohio State, Ryan Day and Brian Hartline. They're like, oh, the freshman's there. Let's go after him. They throw it to Brandon Inniss. Another great play by Grayson Littleton. Unfortunately, that was the one where Colin Simmons had the hands to the face. Should have gotten Texas off the field on a third down, but Colin Simmons, hands to the face, 15 yards, drive stays alive. But Grayson Littleton was the highest graded player on the entire Texas defense, according to Pro Football Focus. Only played 19 snaps. I think he needs more than that going forward. He looks like the real freaking deal. Number 3, Leon Galafau. I thought he was really good, especially against the run. He was the best linebacker on the field for Texas. And when Anthony Hill's playing next to you, that's not easy to do. 9 tackles for Lafau to lead the team. Texas only had 1 TFL. Guess who? Leon Galafau did have that hands to the face penalty that negated a safety. That was big, of course, but most of what Leon Galafau did was really good. He heard his name. We heard his name called on the broadcast a lot, and with good reason. That guy was making a lot of plays for Texas. Big fan of what I saw from him. Excited for what he's going to do, in 2025. Number 4, we'll go to the offense. Parker Livingston had the only touchdown of the day for the Longhorn offense. Obviously, the first touchdown grab of his career. Barely held on, but it was a great catch. Fought through coverage. Great play on the ball. That was good to see. 2 catches for 47 yards. Doesn't sound like a lot, but he had the best stats of any Longhorn wide receiver. No Texas receiver had more than 2 grabs on Saturday. Yuck. Again, the offense, a lot to clean up, but I like what we saw from Livingston. No Emmett Mosley out there. Livingston got a few more snaps, made the most of them. Big fan of him. And then last but not least, Trevor Goosby. Got to give him some flowers, man. Came in banged up. The hand was bandaged. There were reports before the game that he wasn't going to play on Saturday, but went through warmups. Everything was fine. Wasn't sure what to expect. We know how good he is when he's healthy, but again, that hand dealing with that laceration, and he had a procedure 2 weeks ago. Reason for concern for Trevor Goosby going up against a very good Ohio State defensive front, protecting Arch Manning's blind side. Trevor Goosby was really solid. The 4th highest graded player on the Texas offense in the game, behind Trey Wisner, Jack Endries, and somehow Arch Manning. I don't know how PFF got that one. But shout out Trevor Goosby, man. Holding up, not at 100%. Trey Wisner was an honorable mention. Jack Endries, an honorable mention. Alex January, I liked his game a lot on the defensive line. I thought Manny Muhammad had a really good day as well, going up against Jeremiah Smith. Smith, 6 catches, 40-something yards. More of a factor than he was in January, but that's going to be one of Jeremiah Smith's worst stat line of the entire year. Maybe it will be his worst stat line of the entire year. So tip of the cap to Manny Muhammad. I think he deserves some credit there. So again, some good individual performances. Obviously, the entire defense stepped up. You hold a team to 14, you should win that game. It's the Texas offense that needs to be better. My biggest concern, the red area, but Arch has to improve. Sark's got to improve. Everybody's got to step up a little bit. And the good news for Texas, they've got 3 games against lesser opponents and then a bye week before conference play rolls around. So you've got a month to clean some things up, get some things figured out, and gain some confidence before the trip to the swamp in early October. That's going to do it for today's show. If you made it this far, number 1, thank you very much. Number 2, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, turn on notifications, all of those great things as we ramp up the Texas conversation here now that the season is underway. For your next listen, check out Locked On Bets with my man Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers. They are your one-stop shop for all of your sports betting needs. You can find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll compare Arch Manning's debut to Colt McCoy's and Vince Young's, as I just rammed my microphone. Sorry about that. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. Also, plenty more takeaways from the game, and we'll have some sound from Steve Sarkisian's Monday press conference as well coming up on tomorrow's show. But that's going to do it for today. Thank y'all again so much for tuning in. Until next time, horns up, mics off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.